The new Inspector of Constabulary, ex-Merseyside Police Chief Constable Andy Cooke, has said this week or last week, that police should use their discretion when deciding whether to prosecute shoplifters. However, Kit Malthouse, Minister for Policing, has said that police should not ignore shoplifters stealing food out of desperations to feed their family. The remarks come amid the current cost of living crisis that is not just affecting the general members of the public, but isn't affecting the people who caused it. Andy Cooke said that he expects to see a rise in petty crime amid rising poverty levels. Speaking out as inflation hit a 40-year high in April, Andy Cooke said, "I think whenever you see an increase in the cost of living, or whenever you see more people dropping into poverty, I think you invariably see a rise in crime. And that's going to be a challenge for policing to deal with." He added, "What they've got to bear in mind is what is the best thing for the community and that individual in the way they deal with those issues. And I certainly fully support police officers using their discretion, and they need to use discretion more often." Cooke, however, made sure to say that he wasn't given carte blanche for people to go out shoplifting, but wanted police to ensure cases were dealt with in the best way possible. The problem is, as policing is now about statistics and hitting targets, it's unlikely, in my opinion, that many police chiefs will allow for police constables to deal with these issues how they want to. And it will remain a target-driven crime, as in, police chiefs want to hit their quotas for their regular summary to the Home Office. When asked on LBC if ministers will ensure police do not turn a blind eye to shoplifters stealing food, Kit Malthouse replied, "Absolutely right. In fact, I wrote to chief constables just a year or so ago saying they should not be ignoring those seemingly small crimes." I wonder how he knew it was going to be so bad a year or so ago. I mean, look, we knew it was going to be tough in the aftermath of countrywide shutdowns, but not to this extent. But he seems to have known. Strange. On Andy Cooke's warning that crime will rise due to the cost of living crisis, Malthouse said, "I'm afraid I find it a bit old-fashioned thinking. We first of all believe the law should be blind and police officers should operate without fear or favour in prosecution of the law. Secondly, it's not quite right to say that as the economy fluctuates, so does crime. We've seen economic problems in the past, or not, when crime has risen, or not. We actually think there's a growing body of evidence that says your poverty doesn't cause crime. Actually, crime and violence cause poverty. And where you remove the crime and the violence, very often people and neighbourhoods fly and prosper. That's not to say there isn't a cost of living challenge. Of course there is, but our job is to make sure we drive down crime, notwithstanding that challenge for everybody." So I think what Kit is saying is that by stripping people of the funds that they need to survive, creating situations where people can't feed their children or lose their jobs or businesses and can't afford their mortgage, is not a condition for the creation of crime, but rather crime creates all of those conditions. I suppose in a sense I don't disagree, because the crimes the government commit on us, the public, does and has led to the cost of living crisis, but their crimes against us is what has now left some people in no other position other than to steal to feed their children. I'm not saying it's right in the eyes of the law, but morally, if a parent can't afford to feed their children, what other option do they have when the government agencies are so far behind in helping people, or simply don't want to help at all? Now, this doesn't only affect those of us who are not part of the country's elite or their servants, as at a recent Police Federation conference, Priti Patel was confronted by Detective Constable Vicky Knight, who says that she struggles to feed her family on £40,000 a year. DC Vicky Knight from North Wales Police stood up in front of all the attendees at the conference and told Patel that, well, I'll let you hear for yourself.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Home Secretary. I'm Detective Constable Vicky Knight from the North Wales Police. I would like to ask you if, for whatever reason, your husband couldn't work anymore and you were left to provide for your family, could you survive with your family on £1,200 a month?
What about if I may?
Sorry. What about £1,400 a month?
Could you survive on £1,400?
Well, look, we've been discussing pay, and I think just on pay and conditions, that is something that I've said that I'm committed to working with Steve on and how we pursue that and take that forward.
Okay, so I have 23 years police service, and to put it into perspective, after I've paid my professional subscriptions and my pension, I take home £2,300 a month. I work overtime twice a month to try to make ends meet. I'm a single parent, like yourself. I've got a young son at home. Because our wages are measured before our pension's taken out, I get no free seasonal dinners, I get no bus pass to school, I got no school uniform tokens. The only help that I get is my child family allowance. Apart from that, I'm on my own. Now this month was a 5-weekend month, and so we didn't get paid until 12 o'clock on Sunday. On Saturday, I went to my mother's house where she gave me £40 so that on Sunday I could put petrol in the car and buy food for my son's school lunches because I had no money left at the end of the month. Now, I work in child protection and vulnerable adults with the most vulnerable members of our community, and I love my job. However, if the rate of interest goes up and I can't pay my mortgage and I can't pay the fuel, I'm not going to be able to continue to come to work. I went to see an accountant, and the advice was, leave the police, work for 22 hours a week and claim benefits, and you will be better off. How can that be right? I get paid a couple of £100 a month more than the workers in McDonald's flipping burgers, and I get paid less than my local manager at Lidl.
Okay,
and I work in the most terrible of circumstances. And my question to you, I tell this story not because I'm here for sympathy. I just want to be heard. I stand here to represent myself and many people in the force that are like me. We are desperately struggling to do the job that we love and to make ends meet at home. And we need you to be on our team and to help us, to represent us at these bodies, to get us a fair pay.
Something has... I know we are very short of time, but something, Home Secretary, has gone very wrong when an officer who's done over 2 decades in this job is in those circumstances.
No,
something is broken.
Right. No, of course, and actually just say thank you, and thank you for sharing your story and your circumstances with me, with all of us. And actually, I think it really illustrates so strongly and powerfully, why we need to actually find solutions to pay issues and actually give you the support that you rightly deserve. 2 decades in policing, your professionalism, your dedication to public service, and actually you've just said something else as well, working with the type of people, young people, vulnerable people, the very people that we have a duty and a responsibility to protect. So this is why we have to come together. This is actually why I'm here today as well. This isn't, a moment of just calm and, just listen a bit. We have to move this forward. You have that commitment from me. You absolutely do. And as I've said, Steve and I have come together today for the first time. We've got a job of work to do. I'll be very candid about that. It's not straightforward.
So this is a new chapter.
Well,
so do you feel like today, right now,
well, I think first of all it should be. But I am a call a spade type person. None of this is straightforward, and none of this will materialise overnight. But you absolutely have it from me in terms of my responsibility and duty to you to ensure that we can drive this forward, and that is a commitment that I give you.
Did you note that Patel does not answer the question? Now, Vicky says she takes home £2,300 a month, but what she doesn't say is that she lives alone with a single child in a 3-bedroom house in a very affluent area. You know what we would be told? It certainly wouldn't be what her accountant told her regarding leaving the police and going on benefits. I'm pretty sure that the big old house and no doubt her nice car would be contributing to her being worse off than she would be otherwise. In fact, what people should be doing if they can't afford to feed their child is to sell their big old home and get a smaller one, change their car for a cheaper one, plus many other money-saving steps that could be taken. Maybe not what we want to do, but what we may very well need to do. There are people out there who earn far less than £2,300 a month with more than one kid and who have to struggle, but the police and police employees seem to forget that, instead only being concerned for their own comfort zone. And what gets me is how, as I keep saying, people are no longer concerned about each other. Most people are only bothered about themselves and others within their specific community, by which I mean police are concerned about police, not the public. LGBT are concerned about LGBT and don't really give a shit about straight folk. Asians are concerned about Asians. Of course, this is generally speaking, and not everyone from these groups feels the same, but this is, as described many times on this channel, yet another way to keep us fighting amongst each other, keeping the divide between us all, stopping us all from coming together as one group in order to put a stop to all that happens to us. Knight has worked for North Wales Police for 20 years and is said to be set to retire at 55 years old on a full pension. How many of you guys can say you can retire at 55 on a full pension? Her neighbours, however, were not so compassionate to her statement to the Home Secretary. One neighbour said, "I've seen her comments and I thought they were outrageous. She earns 40 grand but complains about not being able to feed her son. It's disgusting that she can make those comments while there are people around her who genuinely struggle to feed their families with the cost of living. She earns a good wage and lives in a lovely area in a big house." Another neighbour said, "I see her out running now and again. She's a nice woman, but there was all that trouble with her husband a while ago. But she's obviously a bit out of touch with how most people live." Another resident, Sean Hughes, 72, said, "It's a lovely place to live with a great community. But people aren't exactly hard up here, and you see lots of people using the golf course." And surprisingly, LBC received a phone call from who appears to be Vicky Knight herself, who actually turned round on live radio and stated that she wouldn't be surprised if police start to take backhanders. Behave yourself, Vic. I mean, it's proven that many do. Also, note how she says she doesn't think those in North Wales Police would take backhanders, but suggests that other forces will. This is how disgusting some police can be to each other. Even though they want to protect each other, they slag each other off. This is clearly an attempt to not get in trouble by her fellow Blue Line brothers and sisters in North Wales, but anyone with half a brain can see it's simply an attempt to appease her bosses after making such a claim. Vicky Knight, you're an idiot. You claim to be hard up, yet your neighbours in your area think differently. I understand they don't know an individual's financials, but you have a £350,000 house. You have a pension on point to pay out fully when you retire at 55, whereas the rest of us will have to work till we're 70 or more in order to live a half-decent life. And you're bitching about not being able to live on the wage that you get. I cannot tell you how pissed off I am at those statements. But let's not forget that Priti Patel couldn't or didn't want to answer the question about being able to live on the same money. This would be because these people are living in a comfort zone. They don't want to have to give up some of the luxuries they have and will do anything they can to keep it, even if it means the rest of us suffer. Plenty of luxuries I'd like. A carpet for one that I can't afford. Don't see me going out committing crimes. Thank you to channel supporters, especially these guys. Your support is truly appreciated. Don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts, as I know many of you will. And until next time, stay safe, look after each other, film the police and other officials.